The council chamber stretched wider than any building on Earth. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, each one filled with a different species from across the galaxy. Some had scales that shimmered under the lights. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. A few breathed methane through tubes attached to their chairs. Jihoon stood in the center of the chamber floor, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Next to him stood Daewon, a former soldier who now served as humanity's military observer. Behind them, Hyerin worked quietly at a data terminal, recording everything. They were the only humans in the room. Above them, on the highest platform, sat Vexthral. He was 12 feet tall when standing, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His species came from Kryn, a world where everything wanted to kill everything else. The Kryn had clawed their way to the top of their food chain and never forgotten it. "We must decide," Vexthral announced, his voice booming through the chamber. "The colony expedition to Theta 7 needs leadership. Which species has the strength to tame a jungle world?" Several representatives raised their appendages. A creature that looked like a walking mantis clicked its mandibles. "My hive has conquered 14 hostile worlds. We fear nothing." That was Ulpara speaking for the collective. Her species moved as one mind across 1,000,000 bodies. They had turned entire planets into hive cities. Another representative stood, this one covered in thick fur and sporting 6 legs. "The Hurlon are natural hunters. We have taken down prey 3 times our size." Vexthral nodded at each speaker. His eyes, yellow and cold, swept across the chamber. "They landed on the humans, and what of Earth?" he asked. His mouth curved into what might have been a smile. Sharp teeth glinted. "What predators does your world offer?" Jihoon stepped forward. "Earth has many dangerous species. Tigers, bears, crocodiles." Laughter erupted through the chamber. It sounded like 1,000 different instruments all playing the wrong notes. Some species chittered. Others rumbled deep in their chests. A few banged their appendages on their seats. Vexthral raised one clawed hand for silence. "Forgive us, but we have seen your tigers, your bears." He gestured to a holographic screen that appeared in the air. "Shall we compare?" The screen split into 2 images. On the left, a Bengal tiger walked through tall grass. It was beautiful, powerful, with muscles rippling under orange and black fur. On the right appeared a creature from Kryn. It stood on 4 legs like the tiger, but there the similarity ended. Blades of bone jutted from its spine. Its head was all teeth and armor plating. It was twice the size of the tiger. "Your apex predator," Vexthral said, pointing to the tiger. "And mine." More laughter filled the chamber. The images changed. Now an Earth grizzly bear appeared next to something from the Hurlon homeworld. The alien creature had 8 legs and a hide that looked like stone. Next came an Earth crocodile beside a beast from the swamps of Ulpara's world. The alien version was covered in spikes and could spit acid. Each comparison made Earth's predators look smaller, weaker, almost cute. "Your world," Vexthral continued, "had mammals, soft things. They are clever for their size, yes, but dangerous." He shook his massive head. "I think not." Daewon's jaw tightened. Jihoon noticed but gave a small shake of his head. "Not yet. We do not claim to have the largest predators," Jihoon said calmly. "Only effective ones." "Effective?" Ulpara clicked forward. "Effectiveness comes from power, from numbers, from fear. Your species barely left your own planet before you found us. You have fought no wars among the stars. You have conquered no worlds." "That is true," Jihoon admitted. "Then Earth shall send observers," Vexthral declared. "You may watch how real predator species handle a hostile world. Perhaps you will learn something." The council voted quickly. The Kryn would lead the expedition. The collective would provide science teams. The Hurlon would serve as hunters and scouts. Humans would observe and record data. When the meeting ended, the 3 humans gathered their equipment. Around them, representatives from other species passed by. Some looked at them with pity, others with amusement. A few didn't look at all, as if humans weren't worth noticing. "They think we're a joke," Daewon muttered once they were alone in a corridor. "They do," Jihoon agreed. "We should have shown them more. Combat footage, survival records. They wouldn't have understood." Jihoon walked toward the transport station. They measured danger by size and teeth and claws. Hyerin caught up to them, carrying her datapad. "I pulled the survival statistics they didn't want to look at." "And?" Daewon asked. 17 expeditions to Theta 7 in the last century. Average survival rate is 42%. The Kryn lost 60% of their team on the last attempt. The collective did slightly better but abandoned the mission after 3 months. Did you tell the council? Jihoon asked. I tried. They said the previous teams were poorly trained. Hiron's expression was grim. Vex Thrall personally blamed weak leadership. Daewon stopped walking. He's going to get people killed. Yes, Jihoon said simply. But they have to learn on their own. We're just observers, remember? They reached the transport station where a small ship waited to take them back to the human quarters. As they boarded, Daewon looked back at the massive council chamber. You know what bothers me most? He said. They never asked the right question. What question? Hiron asked. They asked what predators Earth has. They should have asked what happened to all the predators that used to hunt humans. Jihoon allowed himself a small smile. They'll figure it out eventually. The transport lifted off, carrying them away from the council chamber. Behind them, the great powers of the galaxy prepared for their expedition to Theta 7. They brought weapons designed to kill the biggest prey. They brought armor that could withstand the strongest attacks. They brought the confidence of species who had never known what it meant to be hunted. None of them brought what they actually needed. In her quarters, Hiron pulled up files from Earth. Ancient files. Archaeological records. Evolutionary studies. She read about a small group of primates who had once been prey. They weren't the fastest. They weren't the strongest. They had no venom or armor or natural weapons worth mentioning, but they had something else. They could run longer than anything else. They could think ahead. They could plan. They could work together. And most importantly, they never ever stopped. Those primates had watched the great predators of Earth. They had learned. They had adapted. And then one by one they had turned the tables. The great cave bears? Gone. The saber-toothed cats? Extinct. The terror birds? Vanished. The dire wolves? History. Earth's apex predators weren't tigers or bears or crocodiles. Earth's apex predator was standing right here in the Galactic Council chamber, being laughed at by species who had never needed to learn how to hunt something smarter than themselves. Hiron closed the files. In 2 weeks, they would all ship out to Theta 7. The jungle world waited with its toxic air and crushing gravity and creatures that had evolved in isolation for millions of years. The council thought they were sending humans to observe and learn. They had no idea they were actually bringing something much more dangerous. They were bringing a predator that had learned to be prey and then decided to become something entirely different. Something that didn't need size or teeth or venom. Something that just needed time and patience and the ability to never give up. The expedition was going to be very educational, just not in the way anyone expected. The landing was rough. The ship shook as it pushed through Theta 7's thick atmosphere. Warning lights flashed red across the control panels. Outside the viewports, purple clouds churned like angry water. Jihoon gripped his seat restraints and watched the instruments. The gravity meter showed 200% Earth normal. The atmospheric analyzer flashed warnings about toxins and pressure levels. The temperature gauge couldn't seem to decide if they were landing in an oven or a freezer. 5 minutes to surface, the pilot announced. She was Herlon, her 6 legs braced against the deck as she fought the controls. Next to Jihoon, Daewon was already checking his equipment. Breather mask check, pressure suit check, scanner check. He moved like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Maybe he had back when he served in Earth's military. Behind them sat Hiron, Soman, and Taeyang. They were strapped into their seats, reviewing their mission assignments on data pads. Soman was Earth's medic and biologist for this mission. Taeyang handled all communications and technical systems. The rest of the passenger bay was filled with aliens. 12 Kryn warriors sat in reinforced seats, their scaled bodies barely fitting. A cluster of collective drones huddled together, probably sharing thoughts through their mental link. Several Herlon scouts cleaned their claws and checked their natural weapons. Vex Thrall stood at the front of the bay, one hand gripping an overhead rail. He didn't bother sitting. This world will test us, he announced. But we are predators. We will dominate this jungle as our ancestors dominated our homeworlds. The Kryn warriors roared in agreement. The sound hurt Jihoon's ears even through his helmet. The ship hit the ground hard. Everyone lurched forward against their restraints. Somewhere in the back, something crashed and broke. Welcome to Theta 7, the pilot said dryly. The loading ramp dropped. Hot, wet air rushed in. Even through the breather masks, Jihoon could smell it. Rotting vegetation, strange chemicals, life but not any kind he recognized. Vex Thrall walked down the ramp first. His warriors followed, weapons ready. The humans came last as ordered, just observers. The jungle was dense. Trees rose hundreds of feet into the purple sky, their trunks wider than houses. Vines hung everywhere, some as thick as a human body. The ground was covered in plants that seemed to move when no one was looking directly at them. Everything dripped. Water, or something like it, fell from every surface. The sound was constant, like rain that never stopped. Set up the base camp here, Vex Thrall ordered. Scouts, establish a perimeter. Science team, begin cataloging local life forms. Everyone moved to their assignments. The humans found a spot near the edge of camp and set up their own small tent. Day 1 immediately started placing sensors around their area. Hiren connected to the ship's computer and began downloading environmental data. Soman pulled out her biological scanner and started testing the local plant life. Taeyang looked at Jihoon. Should we offer to help them? Jihoon shook his head. They wouldn't accept. Just do your job. An hour passed. The camp took shape. Force fields hummed to life, creating barriers against the jungle. Weapons were distributed. Guard posts were established. Then the screaming started. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The sound came from the south, maybe 200 yards into the jungle. It was high-pitched and terrible, like metal tearing. Vex Thrall grabbed his weapon and ran toward the sound. His warriors followed. The humans stayed in camp as ordered. 5 minutes later, they came back. They were carrying a body, or most of one. Soman moved forward automatically, her medical training taking over. She stopped when she saw what was left. One of the Kryn warriors was dead, torn apart by something. His armor was shredded like paper. His blood was everywhere. What happened? Ulpara demanded. Her drones buzzed anxiously. Something attacked the scout patrol, Vex Thrall said. His voice was tight with anger. They were together. They were armed. It didn't matter. Did anyone see it? Hurlon asked. No, it came from above, or below, or inside the trees themselves. The survivor isn't sure. Vex Thrall looked at his dead warrior. He says it had blades for limbs and moved faster than anything he'd ever seen. Another scream echoed through the jungle. This time from the east. They found the second body an hour later. Another Kryn killed the same way. Fast, brutal, efficient. By nightfall, they'd lost 4 more. 2 Kryn, 1 Hurlon, and 3 collective drones. The camp felt smaller now. The force field seemed thinner. Every sound from the jungle made someone jump. Vex Thrall called a meeting. We knew this world was dangerous. We will adapt. Double the guards. No one goes anywhere alone. We hunt these creatures and kill them. That might not work, Jihoon said quietly. Every alien head turned to look at him. Vex Thrall's eyes narrowed. Explain. You're thinking like predators, Jihoon said. Top predators. You want to chase these creatures down and fight them. Yes, that is what predators do. But you're not the top predator here. Jihoon gestured to the jungle around them. This is their home. They know every tree, every shadow, every hiding spot. You're the outsiders. So what do you suggest? Ulpara asked. That we run, hide? I suggest we learn about them first. Study their patterns. Understand how they hunt. Then we can decide how to respond. Vex Thrall's expression was hard to read. You want us to wait? While they pick us off one by one? I want you to survive, Jihoon said simply. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Vex Thrall turned away. We are Kryn. We do not hide from prey. Tomorrow we hunt. The meeting ended. The aliens went to their posts. The humans returned to their tent. That went well, Taeyang muttered. Daewon was studying a datapad. I tracked the attack patterns. Want to know what I found? Tell me, Jihoon said. These creatures are smart. They hit scouts who wandered away from the group. They attacked from unexpected angles. They never stayed to fight when the main force arrived. They're using ambush tactics. Like guerrilla fighters, Soman added. Exactly like that. Daewon looked up. They're not just predators. They're tactical hunters. Hiren pulled up her analysis. The jungle has 3 distinct layers of canopy, plus an underground root system that's almost as complex as the surface. The creatures could be moving through any or all of those levels. That's why no one sees them coming. How long before Vex Thrall realizes charging after them won't work? Taeyang asked. Not long, Jihoon said. Unfortunately, a lot more people are going to die first. That night, the humans took turns on watch. Not because anyone ordered them to, but because it felt necessary. Daewon sat near the tent entrance, perfectly still, just watching and listening. Around midnight, something moved in the darkness beyond the force field. Daewon didn't move. He just watched. A shape emerged from the shadows. It walked on 4 legs, but could probably use 2. Its body was covered in something that wasn't quite scales and wasn't quite skin. Blades extended from its forearms, gleaming in the faint light from the camp. It stared at Daewon. He stared back. For a long moment, they simply observed each other, predator and predator. Then the creature tilted its head as if confused by what it was seeing. It had probably never encountered something that didn't run or attack. Slowly, Daewon raised one hand. Not a threat, just an acknowledgement. The creature watched a moment longer. Then it turned and disappeared back into the jungle. In the morning, when the Kryn warriors organized their hunt, they found nothing. The creatures had moved deeper into the jungle away from the camp. The hunting party came back empty-handed and frustrated. They tried again the next day. Same result. By the 3rd day, they'd lost 8 more people to ambush attacks. "They're leading us around," Daewon said quietly to Jihoon, "making us chase them, wearing us down." "I know," Jihoon said. "How long do we wait?" "Until they're ready to listen." On the 4th night, Vex Thrall came to the human tent. He looked tired. His scales were dull. "Tomorrow you will show us your way," Jihoon nodded. "All right. But know this," Vex Thrall continued. "If your methods fail, we return to ours." "Fair enough." After he left, Soman looked at Jihoon. "So what's the plan?" "We stop hunting them," Jihoon said. "And we start thinking like prey." "I don't understand," Taeyang said. Daewon smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "He means we remember what humans used to be before we became what we are now." "We remember being hunted. And then?" Soman asked. "Then we show them what happened to everything that ever hunted us." Outside, the jungle made its sounds. Somewhere in the darkness, the creatures waited. They thought they were hunting easy prey. They had no idea they'd just attracted the attention of something much more dangerous than themselves. Tomorrow, the real lesson would begin. Morning came with purple light filtering through the canopy. The camp was quiet. Too quiet. 15 expedition members had died in 4 days. Everyone else was tired, scared, and running out of ideas. Jihoon stood in the center of camp next to a portable holographic projector. Around him, the surviving aliens gathered. Vex Thrall sat in front, his massive body tense. Ulpara's drones clustered together, their usual buzzing muted. The Herlon scouts lay on the ground, all 6 legs tucked under them. "You said you would show us your way," Vex Thrall said. "We are listening." Jihoon activated the projector. An image appeared in the air. Dense jungle. Not from Theta 7, but from Earth. "This is what we call the Amazon rainforest. One of the most hostile environments on my planet." "It looks smaller than this," a Herlon commented. "It is. But it killed humans for thousands of years. Disease, predators, poisonous plants, starvation. Everything wanted us dead." Another image appeared. "This is Vietnam." Another jungle. Humans fought a war there. Not against nature, but against each other, while nature tried to kill everyone equally. "War?" Ulpara leaned forward. "Your species fights itself?" "All the time," Jihoon said. "We've been doing it for our entire history." "Wasteful," Vex Thrall muttered. "Maybe. But it taught us things." Jihoon changed the image again. Now it showed a dense forest with rivers cutting through it. "The Congo." "The Borneo rainforests." "The jungles of South America and Southeast Asia. Humans lived in all of them. We learned how they worked." Daewon stood up and took over. "The species on this planet are ambush hunters. They're territorial. They know the terrain better than we do. In every way that matters, they're superior to us right now. So we should leave," a Herlon said. "No. We should stop thinking like we're superior." Daewon pulled up new images. "These are what we call the jungle recon files, thousands of years of human experience in hostile jungle, environments, tactics, strategies, survival, methods." The first file showed human soldiers moving through dense vegetation, but they weren't charging or marching. They were going slowly, very slowly. Each step was careful. They tested the ground before putting their weight down. They never snapped a branch or disturbed the plants more than necessary. "Noise discipline," Daewon explained. "Every sound you make tells predators where you are. So you learned to move silently. The next image showed humans covering themselves in mud and leaves, scent masking. Most predators hunt by smell. If you smell like the jungle, you're harder to find. Another file. Humans moving in small groups, always watching different directions. Never bunch up. Never all look the same way. Predators attack the weak points. Don't give them one. Vexthrall shifted in his seat. This is careful, slow. Yes, Day One agreed. Because rushing gets you killed. Hiron stood up next. She pulled up charts and graphs. I've been analyzing the attacks. The creatures on this world hunt like Earth's big cats did. Ambush predators. They pick targets, stalk them, wait for the perfect moment, then strike fast. We know this, Ulpara said. We've seen it. But do you know how humans dealt with big cats? Hiron changed the display. It showed a simple map with colored dots. This is called pattern recognition. The creatures have territories. They use the same routes over and over. They have preferred ambush spots. Once you know the pattern, you can avoid them. Or trap them. Salman activated her portion of the presentation. I've been studying the local biology. The plants here have toxins, but so do plants on Earth. We learned which ones to avoid, which ones to use for medicine, which ones could be weapons. She showed images of Earth plants. Some were poisonous. Some could be made into tools. Some could heal wounds. Knowledge is survival. You need to learn this jungle the way we learned ours. Taeyang was last. He projected a network diagram into the air. Communications and surveillance. On Earth, we used everything we could to watch our enemies. Birds that changed their flight patterns. Insects that went quiet. Even the way plants moved could tell us something was coming. He showed footage of Earth animals reacting to approaching predators. The jungle talks to you. You just have to listen. When they finished, silence filled the camp. The aliens looked at each other. Finally, Vexithril spoke. This is not how we do things. I know, Jehun said. We are warriors. We face our enemies. We fight with strength and courage. And you've lost 15 people in 4 days. Jehun's voice was gentle but firm. Your strength doesn't matter here. Your courage doesn't matter. Only survival matters. A Hurlon scout stood up. You said these methods worked against your predators. But what were they? How dangerous? Day One smiled slightly. Hiron showed them Earth's predators. The real list, Hiron pulled up new files. Saber-tooth cats. Twice the size of your biggest Hurlon. Jaws that could crush bones. Claws that could gut prey in one swipe. An image appeared of a reconstructed saber-tooth. The aliens leaned forward. Cave bears. 20 feet tall when standing. Strong enough to break trees. Territorial and aggressive, another image. Gasps from some of the smaller species. Dire wolves. Pack hunters, intelligent, coordinated. Never gave up once they picked a target. More images. Giant short-faced bears. Terror birds with beaks like axes. Cave lions. Prehistoric crocodiles that could swallow a human whole. These all lived when humans were still evolving. Hiron continued. They hunted us. They killed us. We were prey. What happened to them? Ulpara asked quietly. The display changed. Now it showed something different. A group of early humans barely recognizable as human. They were small, weak, with no natural weapons. They huddled around a fire holding primitive spears. We learned, Hiron said. We watched them. We studied their patterns. We figured out how they hunted. And then, the image changed again. Humans tracking a massive mammoth. Not fighting it directly, but following it. Hour after hour. Day after day. The mammoth tried to run. It tried to fight. But the humans just kept following. Never stopping. Never giving up. Until finally the mammoth collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence hunting, Daewon said. Humans can run longer than almost any animal on Earth, not faster. Longer. We don't sprint and give up. We just keep going. That's horrible, a Hurlon whispered. It gets worse, Hiron said. She showed more footage. Humans setting traps, digging pits, using fire to drive predators into ambushes, working together in groups to bring down creatures 10 times their size. We learned to think like prey, she continued. But we didn't stay prey. We became something else, something that could be both prey and predator at the same time. The final image appeared, an empty landscape. No saber-tooths, no cave bears, no dire wolves, just humans, standing where those creatures used to be. They're extinct, Vexithrall said slowly. All of them? Most of them, Jehun confirmed. The ones that survived did so because we decided to let them live. Tigers, bears, wolves, They exist today because humans chose to preserve them. The camp was completely silent now. Even the jungle seemed to have gone quiet, as if listening. You hunted them to extinction? Wilpar's voice was strange. The creatures that hunted you? Not all at once. It took thousands of years. But yes. Ji-hoon looked at each alien in turn. That's what happens when you hunt humans. Eventually, we learn your patterns, we adapt. We become better at hunting you than you are at hunting us. But you're so small, Ahurlan said. So weak. Physical weakness doesn't matter if you're smart enough, Daewon replied. And patient enough. And stubborn enough to never ever quit. Solman stepped forward. The creatures on this planet are dangerous. But they're not more dangerous than what humans faced on Earth. We survived by thinking, adapting, and working together. You can do the same. Or, Taeyang added, you can keep doing what you're doing and see how many more people die. Vex Thrall stood. His full height was impressive, towering over the humans. But for the first time, he didn't look like he was trying to intimidate them. He looked like he was thinking. These jungle recon files, he said. They contain all your tactical knowledge? Thousands of years' worth, Ji-hoon confirmed. And you will share them? Teach us? That's why we're here. Vex Thrall looked at his remaining warriors, then at the Hurlan scouts, at Ulpara's drones. Finally, he looked back at the humans. On Kryn, we have a saying, the strongest predator rules, but he paused. I think I am beginning to understand. Being the strongest doesn't matter if you're dead. Now you're learning, Daewon said. Very well. Vex Thrall straightened. We will try your methods. But I want to know one thing first. What? Ji-hoon asked. If humans were prey that became predators and you hunted all your predators to extinction. Vex Thrall's eyes were intense. What does that make you now? Ji-hoon met his gaze without flinching. Survivors. That's all we've ever been. Just survivors who got very, very good at it. Outside the camp, something moved in the jungle. The creatures were watching. They'd been watching the whole time. They'd just learned something important about these new prey. These small, soft things weren't like the others. They didn't charge blindly. They didn't panic. They just stood there talking and planning, as if they had all the time in the world. The creatures didn't know it yet. But they'd made a terrible mistake. They'd given humans time to think, and thinking was what humans did best. The attack came at dawn on the 7th day, not from one direction but from all of them at once. Ji-hoon was awake when it started. He'd been reviewing patrol routes with Daewon when the sensors screamed. Red lights flashed across every display. The force field hummed as something hit it hard. They're coordinating, Daewon said, already moving toward the weapons locker. Smart. All around the camp, aliens scrambled for defensive positions. But this time they moved differently, quieter, careful. They'd been training with human methods for 2 days now. It was about to be tested. Vex Thrall appeared from his shelter, fully armored. Status. Multiple contacts, Taeyang called from the communication station. At least 20. They're surrounding us. Coming from all levels, Hyerin added, watching her scanners. Underground, ground level, and canopy. They're using the full jungle. Through the force field, shapes moved in the purple dawn light. The creatures had been patient, studying the camp, learning its defenses. Now they were making their move. One of them crashed through the force field on the eastern side. The barrier had a weak point there, a gap between generators. The humans had found it days ago but left it. Bait. The creature rushed through, blade arms raised. It expected to find easy prey bunched together and panicking. Instead, it found Daewon waiting with a carefully aimed shot. The creature went down. 2 Kryn warriors appeared from hidden positions and dragged the body inside the perimeter for study. That's one, Daewon said calmly into his communicator. Everyone hold positions. Let them come to us. Another creature tried the north side. Same result. Then the west. Same again. The creatures pulled back, confused. Their ambush tactics worked when prey ran or fought back wildly. But this prey was waiting, watching, thinking. They're regrouping, Hyerin reported. Pulling back about 300 yards. Let them, Ji-hoon said. Minho, Nari, you're up. 2 more humans emerged from their shelter. Minho was stocky and carried a case of engineering equipment. Nari was thin and nervous-looking, but her hands were steady on her drone controller. Already on it, Nari said. Her fingers danced across the controls. Above the camp, tiny drones lifted into the air, silent, nearly invisible. They spread out into the jungle, cameras recording everything. Minho knelt by the fallen creatures and started studying them. Interesting. Their blade arms aren't bone. It's more like compressed cartilage, flexible but hard. And look at these sensor organs along the neck. They can probably detect vibration and heat. Can you use that? Vexthrall asked. Maybe. Give me time. Time. The one thing humans always asked for. The one thing that drove warriors crazy. But Vexthrall nodded. You have it. The next attack came an hour later. This time the creatures tried something new. They sent smaller ones in first, testing the defenses. When those were driven back, the bigger ones charged from different angles. Kangmin stepped forward. He was quiet, always working in the background. But now his traps were ready. The creatures hit the first trap line 50 yards from camp. Snares made from local vines, positioned at ankle height. 3 creatures went down, thrashing. While they were distracted, more traps triggered. Falling logs, pit covers that gave way. Nothing complicated. Just simple, effective, the kind of traps humans had been using for thousands of years. They're adapting, Hiren warned. The ones in back are learning to avoid the traps. Good, Jihoon said. We want them to adapt. It makes them predictable. On Nari's screen, the drones showed the full picture. The creatures were smart, yes. They were learning, yes. But they were learning in patterns. They avoided areas where traps had been. They watched for the snares. They became cautious, which meant they were slower. More careful. Less aggressive, Salmon, Jihoon said. Are you ready? The medic had been working with local plants since they landed. Now she emerged from the supply tent with sprayers. This plant sap is an irritant. Not deadly, but extremely uncomfortable. I've mixed it with a dispersal agent. She handed sprayers to the Kryn warriors. When they get close, spray this into the air. It'll make them think twice about pressing the attack. The next charge came fast and angry. The creatures were frustrated now. Their attacks weren't working. Their prey wasn't behaving right. The irritant stopped them cold. They retreated, clawing at their eyes and sensor organs. The Hurlon scouts used that moment to make targeted strikes, taking down 3 more. Regroup, Vexthrall called. His warriors pulled back to defensive positions. Casualties? 2 wounded, Somin reported. Nothing serious. I can treat them. Only 2? Ulpara sounded surprised. We've been fighting for hours. Because we're not fighting, Day-1 explained. We're defending. There's a difference. As afternoon turned to evening, the attacks continued, but each one was weaker. The creatures were learning that this camp was harder than expected. They were losing numbers. Their ambush tactics weren't working. Jihoon called a meeting as the purple sun set. They're going to try one more big push. Probably tonight. Everything they have. How do you know? A Hurlon asked. Because it's what I would do. They've committed this much already. They can't just leave now. It's about territory. So we wait for them to attack? Vexthrall asked. No, we changed the rules. Jihoon looked at Day-1. Show them. Day-1 activated a holographic map of the jungle around them. Red dots showed where the creatures were massing. Blue lines showed patrol routes. Green markers indicated defensive positions. Standard tactics say we wait in camp and defend, Day-1 explained. But humans learned something important when we hunted on Earth. Sometimes the best defense is to become the hunter. He changed the display. Now it showed small teams moving out from camp, not charging, just walking. Slow, steady. Each team following a route that would take them around the creature's position. Persistence tactics, he continued. We don't attack them directly. We just make them uncomfortable. We follow them. We watch them. We never let them rest. Eventually they'll make a mistake. That could take days, Vexthrall said. Yes, do you have somewhere else to be? Vexthrall's expression was strange, almost amused. You humans are very patient. We've had a lot of practice. The operation began at nightfall. Small teams moved out. Each one had at least 1 human with them, teaching as they went. Move quietly. Watch the ground. Don't silhouette yourself against the sky. Breathe slowly. Think before acting. Day-1 led a team with 2 Kryn warriors. They found a group of creatures bedded down in a nest of tangled roots. The creatures detected them immediately and prepared to attack, but Day-1's team just stood there, watching, not threatening but not leaving either. The creatures charged. The team retreated slowly, leading them away from their nest. Then stopped again, waited. This continued for an hour. The creatures would charge, The team would retreat, stop, wait, over and over. What are we doing? One of the Kryn asked, making them tired, Daewon replied, and angry, and confused. They don't understand why we won't either fight or run properly. Meanwhile, Soman was tracking a different group. Her team marked their trail with scent markers that humans had learned disrupted predator territories. The creatures kept trying to return to their hunting grounds but found the smells all wrong. They couldn't settle. Nari's drones followed from above, always watching. Whenever creatures tried to rest, a drone would buzz close enough to disturb them. Not attacking, just being annoying. Kangman's team set up false trails leading to nowhere. Creatures that followed them wasted energy on empty pursuits. It was the kind of warfare that didn't look like warfare at all, just persistent, patient pressure. The kind of hunting that humans had perfected over thousands of years. By the third night of this new strategy, the creatures were exhausted, confused. They couldn't sleep properly. They couldn't hunt normally. Every time they settled, something disturbed them. One of them attacked Somin's team in desperation. It was sloppy, telegraphed. Somin had been tracking it for 18 hours, watching it grow more tired, more careless. When it finally charged, she simply stepped aside. The creature was too exhausted to correct its trajectory. It collapsed 20 feet past her. Should I kill it? Asked the Hurlon scout on her team. No, Somin said. Let it go. Let it tell the others that chasing us only leads to exhaustion. When they returned to camp, Vexthral was waiting. The attacks have stopped. For now, Jihun agreed. They'll try again. But each time it'll be weaker. They're learning the wrong lesson. They think if they just push harder, they'll win. But we're teaching them that pushing at all is the mistake. Vexthral searched for words. This is not how Kryn fight. I know. We face our enemies. We prove our strength. And that works when you're the strongest thing around, Daewon said. But here you're not. So you have to be smarter instead. Over the next 2 days, the creatures made 3 more attempts. Each one was more desperate than the last. Each one failed. The expedition's casualties stopped. No more deaths. A few injuries, but Somin treated those. The creatures finally retreated deeper into the jungle. They'd learned something important. This prey wasn't worth the effort. The cost was too high. On the 10th day, scouts reported the area around camp was clear. The creatures had moved their territory elsewhere. Vexthral stood with Jihun at the edge of camp, looking into the jungle. We won. You survived, Jihun corrected. That's what matters. The council chamber looked the same as before. Thousands of seats rising in circular tiers, representatives from across the galaxy filling them. Lights gleaming off scales, fur, carapaces, and stranger things, but everything felt different now. Jihun stood in the center of the floor again. Next to him stood Daewon and Hyerin. Behind them, Somin, Taiyang, Minho, Nari, and Kangmin, all 8 humans who'd gone to Theta 7. Around them stood the survivors from the other species. Vexthral was there, his armor showing new scars. Ulpara's remaining drones clustered tight. The Hurlon scouts looked thinner, harder. They'd left with 97 expedition members. They'd returned with 58. In galactic terms, that was a triumph. Most expeditions to Theta 7 lost more than half their people. Some lost everyone. The council hierarch, a massive being named Torvan, sat on the highest platform. He had too many eyes and spoke with a voice that echoed strangely. The expedition to Theta 7 has returned. Commander Vexthral, report. Vexthral stepped forward. His movements were different now. Less aggressive. More measured. We survived, Hierarch. Against expectations. Explain the casualties. 39 lost. Most in the first 4 days before we adapted our tactics. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 4 days of heavy losses, then survival. That was unusual. What changed? Torvin asked. We did. Vexthral looked back at the humans. With guidance from our observers, more murmurs. Louder now. A representative from a species covered in spikes stood up. Guidance? From humans? The prey species? Jihun recognized that tone. The same mockery from before. But now Vexthral's response was different. They are not prey, Vexthral said firmly. That was our mistake. They are something else entirely. Explain, Torvan commanded. Vexthral activated a holographic display. It showed footage from Theta 7, the early attacks, the casualties, the chaos of predators fighting predators in unfamiliar territory. We failed initially because we approached Theta 7 as conquerors, as apex predators claiming new territory. But we were not apex there. The native life had evolved for millions of years in that environment. We were outsiders, the footage changed. Now it showed humans training the expedition members, teaching them to move quietly, to watch and wait, to think before acting. The humans taught us different tactics, not conquest, survival, not domination, adaptation. A council member that looked like walking crystal spoke up. "These are prey tactics, hiding, running." "No," Vexthrall said. "These are hunter tactics, the tactics of Earth's apex predator." He changed the display again. Now it showed the jungle recon files. Everything the humans had shared. Thousands of years of survival knowledge. The chamber went silent as representatives watched humans on Earth. Small, weak-looking, but moving through jungles like ghosts, setting traps, tracking prey for days without rest, working together with terrifying coordination. Earth's apex predator, Vexthrall continued, is not an animal. It is them. He pointed at the humans. And they did not conquer their world through strength. They conquered it through intelligence, patience, and the ability to never give up. Ulpara stepped forward. Her drone spoke in perfect unison. "We have studied human evolutionary history during the return journey. The data is disturbing." New images appeared. Earth's ancient predators, saber-toothed cats, cave bears, dire wolves, massive, powerful, terrifying. These hunted humans, Ulpara said. Humans were prey for millions of years. Then what happened? Torvan asked. The display showed an empty landscape. No saber-tooths. No cave bears. The predators are extinct. The prey survived and eliminated them. The chamber erupted into noise. Clicking, buzzing, roaring sounds no human throat could make. It went on for a full minute before Torvan silenced them. "Explain how this is possible." Hierin stepped forward. She'd been quiet until now, but her voice carried clearly. "Humans evolved differently than most species. We weren't the strongest or fastest. We couldn't fly or breathe underwater. We had no venom or armor or natural weapons." She pulled up charts showing human biology compared to other Earth species. "But we had endurance. We could run for days without stopping. We could regulate our body temperature through sweating, which meant we never overheated. And we had complex brains that could plan, remember, and learn." "This makes you unique?" someone in the audience asked. "No, this makes us persistent." Hierin changed the display. "When a human hunts, we don't chase prey in a sprint. We follow it. Hour after hour, day after day. The prey runs, it rests. It runs again. But we just keep following. Eventually it collapses from exhaustion. That's persistence hunting." She showed footage of persistence hunts from Earth's history. The audience watched in growing horror as humans simply walked after prey until it died. "But it's not just physical," Hierin continued. "It's mental. When humans decide to do something, we don't give up. If one method fails, we try another. And another. And another. We adapt, we learn. We never stop. Day one took over. The predators on Earth learned this too late. By the time they realized humans were dangerous, we'd already figured out their patterns. We knew where they hunted, when they slept, how they attacked. We turned their own instincts against them. More footage. Humans digging pits, setting snares, using fire, working in groups to drive predators into ambushes. Every tactic designed to overcome physical weakness through intelligence. Some species think intelligence means better technology, Day One said. But humans were using intelligence to hunt long before we had technology. We were tactical thinkers when we still used stone tools. That's why we survived. That's why the predators didn't. Someone stepped forward next. And it's not just hunting. Humans had to survive diseases that killed millions. We had to adapt to ice ages. We had to cross oceans and deserts and mountains. Every environment on Earth tried to kill us at some point. She showed maps of human migration. Out of Africa, across Asia, into Europe, the Americas, Australia.
Every biome.
Every climate. We didn't wait for evolution to adapt us to new environments. We just figured them out and survived anyway. Taiyang added, communication was key. Humans share knowledge across generations. Every trick we learned, every tactic that worked, we taught to our children. They improved it and taught their children. Thousands of years of accumulated wisdom. The council chamber was completely quiet now. Every representative was watching the displays with something that looked like fear. Finally, a small voice came from the upper tiers. What happened to Earth's predators that didn't go extinct? Jehoon answered this one. We domesticated some of them. Wolves became dogs. We turned predators into companions. Others we preserved. Tigers, bears, sharks. We created protected areas for them. Not because we had to, because we chose to. Why? Torvan asked. Because we'd won, Jehoon said simply. They were no longer a threat. So we decided they deserved to live. Vex Thrall spoke again. This is what makes humans truly dangerous. Not their tactics or intelligence alone, but the fact that they choose mercy. They become the apex predator and then decide not to eliminate everything else. He looked directly at Torvan. On Theta 7, they could have let us die. Our tactics were failing. We were losing people every day. The humans could have observed our destruction, gathered their data, and reported back that the galaxy's great warrior species failed. But you survived, Torvan said. Because they helped us, not to prove superiority, not to mock us, but because they genuinely wanted us to survive. Vexithral's voice was strange, almost awed. I have never met a species that could be apex predator and still choose compassion. Torvan was silent for a long moment. His many eyes studied the humans. And if humans decided not to be compassionate? If you chose conquest instead of cooperation? Jehoon met his gaze. We've done that too. We fought wars on Earth for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. We know what we're capable of when we stop being merciful. And we decided it wasn't worth it. We chose a different path. Another long silence. Then Torvan spoke to the entire council. I propose a vote. Humans should be offered leadership positions in all colonial expeditions. Their knowledge of survival and tactics is clearly superior to our own. Additionally, Uolpera added, we should establish a formal exchange program. Human tactics and knowledge in return for access to our technology and resources. The vote was quick, nearly unanimous in favor. As the meeting ended and representatives filed out, many stopped to speak with the humans. Some asked questions about survival tactics. Others wanted copies of the jungle Recon files. A few just wanted to look at them as if trying to understand how something so small could be so dangerous. Later, Jehoon stood with his team at the observation deck. They looked out at the galaxy spread before them. Millions of stars. Thousands of species. They're scared of us now, Taiyang said quietly. A little, Jehoon agreed. Is that what we wanted? No, but it's better than being dismissed. Hyerin pulled up a data pad. I'm already getting requests for tactical consultants. 20 expeditions want human advisors. We don't have enough people, Minho said. We'll train more, Day One replied. That's what humans do. We share knowledge. Nari looked at the stars. Do you think they understand? Really understand what humans are? Not yet, Jehoon said. They understand we're survivors. They understand